Most traders don't fail because they don't know enough. They tend to fail because they can't execute what they already know when the pressure hits. And if you've ever passed a prop firm evaluation, then proceeded to blow that funded account, then you probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. Today, I'm sitting down with Julio Casiano, one of our inner circle members, because his story is basically the story of modern retail trading. Started in the COVID boom, bounced through crypto, forex, then futures, chased a few strategies, and got flashes of success. Then the emotions kicked in and it all reset. But here's the part you need to hear. Julio has been funded before. He's even been in a live funded account. And like most traders, he admitted he blew it. Not because he didn't know enough, but because the mental game of the structure wasn't locked in. So let's fast forward to now. After joining the inner circle cohort number 2, cleaning up the noise and committing to one system and actually journaling his process, Julio just pulled in a $5,000 payout in one single 50K account. And he did it with a repeatable approach, not a lucky streak. So in this interview, we're going to break down his entire journey, what didn't work, and what finally started clicking. And most importantly, how he trades now, the exact behaviors that helped him stay consistent, and what he's doing next to make payouts repeatable. So if you're serious about getting consistent and not just having good weeks or good streaks, this is the kind of conversation that can save you years. All right, let's bring Julio in. All right, everybody. I'm here with Julio Casiano, one of the traders in our group here, a newer member to the Inner Circle cohort number 2. And Julio's had some great success lately. He's actually had some great success over his career as a trader, and he's looking to bring things to the next level with us. So we're really happy to have him with us and our team here. So we're going to spend a little time with Julio, getting to know him, getting to know his background, his trading journey, so to speak. We're going to be talking about how he's currently trading, what he's trading, and what's working for him. And we'll dive into the details with all of that. So Julio, great to have you with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you. So, and thanks for taking the time. So why don't we just dive right in, and you tell us a little bit about what your trading journey has been like. Where did you start? Where did you get started with trading?
Yeah, I think like a lot of other retail traders, right? We started back during the COVID days, right? It's 2020, and you're trying to figure out different ways to have a different residual income, and I think that's really when the retail boom happened. I was part of that, right? Um, so a friend of mine was in, I think like a lot of people, was it IM Academies or whatever it was, IM
Mm-hmm.
Live or whatever it might be. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's changed names since, but he's like, hey man, I'm doing this trading thing. And at the time it was crypto, right? And he's like, hey, come trade crypto. And of course I jumped into that, and it was up and down, up and down, up and down, but never really found any good success. Took a took a couple years off, and he kept at it and kind of bounced around, went from crypto to forex, and then so I jumped back in during forex. Was trading some forex CFDs and stuff like that. And then took some time off again. Wasn't finding any success. Obviously, the whole MetaTrader 4, MetaTrader 5 debacle. Shutting it down in the states,
Sure.
all that stuff. So at that time, I just kind of washed myself of it again. And then futures, everyone migrated to futures, and here I am again. So I jumped back on. But I think this time is a little bit different, right? So I've, as you and I were just talking, I found a little success. Like here, I keep seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then emotions are a big part of this game. And I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and something happens, and emotions get kicked in, and that light goes away, and you kind of reset, and I've kind of bounced around different strategies. But I think the thing that's been most success for me is finding VWAP, right? So VWAP has really changed how I've become successful as a trader. And I'm still far away from having a career in trading, obviously. But you know, VWAP is really just kind of what has kind of sent me in the right path, in the right trajectory, and kind of got from one group to another group, and found you via another group, and you're doing a couple other interviews on YouTube, and Just really like your style, right? Because I like, a couple of other groups I was in, they look for 1 or 2 trades a day, which is good. Um, but for me, like I'm looking for a particular dollar amount per day, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to um, make this a career and kick my 9 to 5. So what I needed was, so I had 1 or 2 options: either increase my risk and start over leveraging, right? If I'm using prop accounts,
Mm.
or find more trades. But I found when I was finding more trades doesn't mean I was more successful. Just means I was trading more, which ultimately ended up making me lose more money
Hmm.
because I didn't have all the different confluences that you have in with the V wave, the VWAP wave system. When you start adding in the VWAP and the bands, and you start looking at value area high, value area low, and you start putting all that together. You start seeing that there's more entries, and where I would normally get in here and try to ride it all the way up, I can get in, get out, most likely get back in on the next pullback, and keep riding that wave up, or ride the wave down. So that's really how what's really been working for me is um, being able to find multiple entry points.
Yeah, love it. So let's talk about a little bit about your early success in futures. From my understanding, you were a live trader with Top Step at one point.
I
Tell
was,
us a little bit
yes.
about what that was like, when that happened, what was working for you then, and kind of what happened there.
Yeah, it was about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Just again, it was I found VWAP, and I found success with it. And I don't know what changed. It was working really well for me. I don't know if it was a mental thing that changed, or
Mhm.
it was definitely something in me that changed. Right, I started trading differently,
Mhm.
and obviously not journaling was one thing, right? So I don't have anything to reflect on, right? So what was working, so all these things are just hypothetical to me right now, right? Um, I'm trying to pull back on old memories of what was working versus what stopped working, right? So now, obviously, being with you, obviously journaling has been a pivotal point in my game as well. Because now I
Mhm.
can, every time I start to fall off track, I can go back and say, okay, what was working? So back then, I was just doing VWAP, and I yeah, I don't know if I just got lucky. It was the summer of 24, I think it was.
Mhm.
Kind of where you just clicked up, blindly click buy, and the market was just going up. That whole May, June, July, August timeframe.
Sure.
Normally, when it was summer slump, and it wasn't really summer slump. The market was
No.
just going off. So, maybe I was just in the right place at the right time. But yeah, I had a couple of Top Step accounts, and had taken a few, $2,000 payouts, $2,500 payouts here and there. And then finally, I got the email that said, "Hey, you've been selected to go live." And I was really didn't know what that meant. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the process actually took quite a while, right?
Right.
So, because what they do is they do it like near the end of the month. Because you obviously have to roll in getting live data feeds and all that stuff. You're signing the actual contract with, it's not tops, or it's the broker or something like that. I forget how it
Sure.
works, but you're signing a contract with their actual broker.
Right.
So there was like a 2 or 3 week period where I couldn't trade my accounts because they were in the process of closing down my sim funded accounts and rolling the money over to a live account, and then of course it couldn't start until the first of the next month because the way the billing worked for the CME data feed and all that.
All right. Yep.
Um, but yeah, unfortunately, that did not last very long. And that's where kind of it's unfortunate that I wasn't journaling because I don't know where I went off the tracks. It was like
Mhm.
I was doing so well, and then here I
Right.
am.
And you had a pretty big payout with the live account, did you not?
Yeah, 15K.
That's
So
big. Yeah.
yeah, no,
That's beautiful.
yeah, I was pretty stoked, and
You thought
just
you
like
had
everybody
figured
else.
it out at that point? You were going to
Yeah,
be
yeah, I was the next millionaire. Come on, you're going to see me like buying a mansion down in Miami or somewhere. I
yeah.
don't know. I had the money sold already.
Yeah. Figured out the money glitch. So, and it's really interesting you put it that way because, you did see a lot of success, which is awesome. So you're doing a lot of things right, but things do change, right? Sometimes how we look at the market changes. Sometimes we evolve our trading. Sometimes something bites us and it scars us a little bit. So we do something differently now. But also, the big variable that a lot of people don't track is how the market changes, right? So, you might have changed differently. You probably did change something about how you were trading, but maybe the bigger change was the shift in the market conditions
Yeah,
and you didn't change,
that's
right? So
could
that's
be.
the other thing that the other variable that's a little tougher to track is like you might have been trading the same way, but the market conditions weren't conducive to how you were trading at the time. So that's something that we really try to focus on a little more with the traders I work with is tracking everything you're doing, including the market conditions, right? So we break it into price discovery versus balance. Are we fading? Are we doing more of a mean reversion trade? Is that what's working in this market? Or are we riding the continuation? I want to do a quick pause for a second because this part matters. What Julio is talking about, the VWAP wave system, it's a fairly simple trading system, but as we all know, trading isn't easy. But traders in our group are finding success and consistency using structured trading around VWAP and auction market theory principles. But here's the reality. Learning the system can be the easy part. Executing it consistently, this is the hard part. You've probably watched 100 YouTube videos, tried a dozen strategies, and switched systems every time you hit a drawdown, and you're still not consistent. I'm here to tell you that's not a strategy issue. This tends to be an accountability issue. So if you want one-on-one help mastering a system, if you want someone reviewing your trades and pointing out your blind spots, and if you want structure so you finally stick to one system and stop jumping around, this is exactly what the Drysdale Inner Circle is built for. The program is closed right now, but if you want priority access when we open back up the next cohort, be sure to click the first link in the description below and join the waitlist. Let's get you consistent funded payouts. Now let's get back to the interview. So, in that same vein, I know you've been working diligently about journaling more and taking a look at your trading. And just recently, congratulations, you just took a $5,000 payout with Top Step
Yep.
while being with us in the inner circle. So, I'd love to segue into that a little bit. So, how have you been trading in order to achieve that goal?
Yeah, no, it's honestly the fastest payout that I've received in in a long time. As far as like not how quickly they approved it, but from the time that I started the combine, through passing the combine to going live or sim live,
Yep.
and then trading that up, and then being able to get the 5 days in and get above the 50% threshold, all the rules that the firms put in place for you to get a payout, and it's the fastest I think I've gotten paid out. And I think that a credit to that has been just a lot of the what we're doing in class, right? It's learning the system, learning how to kind of like you said, like seeing how the market has shifted or changed it, or what kind of market are we walking into that day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm maybe I'm seeing the market
Mm-hmm.
clearer again,
Yep.
now. And yeah, I think really that it's hard to really to pinpoint what is it exactly that I'm doing better. It could
Mm-hmm.
just be a product of my environment now, right? So yeah, I've done a good job at clearing out my Discord and getting rid of a lot of groups, and not because they didn't add value, they were noise, right? So I was trying to eliminate a lot of the noise, try to eliminate the strategy hopping, the little carrot dangling at the other end, because just because someone else is finding success doesn't mean you can't find success. And I really wanted to commit to, hey, we see you do it every day, Chris, and
Mm-hmm.
as if I want to be as good or hope to be as good as you are one day, like I have to kind of rid myself of all these other strategies and kind of start over from scratch, right? And really just kind of see the market as you see it, and use the tools that you use, from whether it's tick strike or Stream Deck and all these things that you use. It's not a requirement as a student of yours, but if you want to be the person that you're considering your mentor, right? Someone
Mm-hmm.
you want to emulate, basically, and I want to emulate your success. Well, I want to put myself in your seat in your house as much as I can, right?
Right.
I so I'm using the tools that you're using, the ones that you're suggesting. Use from the toolkit. I have the toolkit, the Stream Deck, the Tick Strike. Using financial juice. All that stuff really has played a key role in, I think, my success in getting this payout.
I love to hear it. So, what type of setups do you tend to prefer to take? Are you looking more for price continuation when the market's on the move? Are you looking more for the fade back to VWAP or the return to value? Are you more of a continuation or a fade, mean reversion type trader?
Yeah, I think I'm more into the fading category, right? So I kind of, I'm looking for that quick move. I'm watching for that. Hey, the market's taking off. Fine, let it go without me.
Mm-hmm.
Wait for it to get to the extreme and take it back down into value, or at least take it down to the band. Take it on a reversion back down. Sometimes especially when you got tick strike going and you just hear the ticka is going. I mean, sometimes you talk about this a little bit in class too. It's some of discretionary, right? And I feel like sometimes I could pull on that the success from the past, where like I really see this market. It's we're going up right now, and you can hear the tickers in the background. And I wait for that next pullback, and it may not be as big of a pullback as someone would normally look for. But you jump in and take a small position and build into a position, and build into a zone, and just wait for it to rip. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not my typical. My typical is more of, I like to fade back down or fade up. I like to fade the market.
Sure. And you have to be very patient with those. So, and I trade very similarly. So Julio's talking right out of my playbook here. I love to fade the market as well. And usually when it's going hard and very directionally, if I'm not already in a position, usually I'm sitting on my hands. And I'm waiting for some structure to form. I'm waiting for the market to tip its hand a little bit and let me know that there's going to be a little more opportunity. We now have some levels to trade off of, and we have a playbook with actual setups to go off of. So, one of the biggest things I had to learn is when the edge is not on the table, to do nothing, right, and being okay with watching the market move without me. And that took a long time for me. How is that with you, Julio?
Yeah, it's definitely hard, right?
Hmm.
Because I like to be in, I like to be in the trade, right? I like to be in
Yeah.
the action. But being on stream with you, and then obviously having access to you on Discord, we do a lot of stuff in the inner circle. Again, I feel like being in this environment is what's helping me, right? Not have to. You say it a ton on stream, like I'm sitting on my hands, not taking trades. I don't have an edge. I don't have. There's no play here.
Hmm.
Or the other famous saying is, if you can't name it, it's not a trade.
Right.
And journaling has helped that, right?
Hmm.
Because I know that I have to be accountable and journal that entry, and it's like, okay, what am I going to call this? The Julio just because trade? I mean, I
The
don't know.
Julio, I want my money now trade.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then sometimes there are those trades, right? I mean, we're all human, but no, I think just again being part of the environment, right? Really plugging in and really, doing as you say and saying as you do.
Hmm.
Just try to be ingrained into the system as much as possible.
Awesome. And we do try to set a really professional tone. I mean, we like to laugh and have fun as well, but we take trading very seriously. The risk side, the taking risk side of trading, and there's a lot of traders out there and there's a lot of streams out there that seem like they're for more for entertainment than they are to actually make money. And sometimes sitting and waiting, watching the market move without us being in it, that doesn't make for great entertainment. That doesn't make for a great entertaining stream sometimes, but this is the nature of trading. So I think one needs to decide, am I here to make money or am I here to be entertained? Because I know what the answer to that question is. I know Julio knows the answer to
Yeah.
that question, but I think some people aren't quite aware yet. So when you make that transition from from joining a group and viewing a trader stream, what are we trying to accomplish here? And we make that mission very clear, but I think some people are still trying to figure out. And I certainly can have fallen into that trap earlier on in my career. And there's always people that are flashing P&L and things to watch and be entertained. But if that worked for everybody, there would be a lot of really rich traders out there, and there's not. So I don't know how that was for you, Julio, but that's what I found.
Yeah, no, very similar. I mean, again, I've been part of number of groups, right? And I picked up little things here and there from every group, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody
Sure.
has something, right, to provide. Obviously, they wouldn't have a Discord or they wouldn't have a group if they weren't successful themselves. Well, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
they're successful themselves, right, and not just pulling the wool over people's eyes. But I try to make sure I was aligning myself with people that I thought I could, trust,
Sure.
and that we're being successful. But I think the key is like you said, just because they found success or they were successful doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
their style of trading was for me, right?
Right.
And it could be, I'm not looking for someone to give me levels to trade. Kind of the old saying, give someone a fish and they'll eat for a day versus teach them how to fish and they'll eat forever.
Right.
And that's what this system is, right? The system is you're learning tools that even if I decided to, I was like, hey, Chris, it's been great. Like I want to go do this on my own now. Um, I have the tools, right?
A hundred
Um,
percent.
and I could technically trade on myself by myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the community aspect as well. I mean, everyone says it too, right? Even the successful traders say that trading is a very lonely sport or lonely game because
Mm-hmm.
it is, right? Talk to family members or friends, and they're like, I don't care about this crap. Um, but being part of this group, and having people to bounce ideas off of, or even the days that we go on tilt, right? Because again, I'm not perfect, not, far from it.
Right.
Be able to just go in a chat and say, hey, today's a bad tilt day or whatever, and have the community come around you and kind of help you through and see what you've done wrong or how you can improve. So yeah, it's wonderful. I love it.
I love to hear it. And it also, in my opinion, I think it helps to be around traders who are trading a similar system, right? I've
Yeah.
also been in groups where kind of a lot of people do their own thing and they're using different tools and this and the other thing. And then the message gets really convoluted. Whereas when we can keep the focus on one trading style and one trading system, everybody can review and be on the same page. And it's really cool because when I'm reviewing your guys' trades, like we do that, that post morning recap, we're seeing a lot of people take the same exact trades, which is really interesting. They're seeing the same thing. We're all seeing the same setups, right? Because it's well defined. The criteria is clear. So we'll see a lot of traders take the same exact setups, which is fun, and it's also encouraging, for those that are just getting into the system and things like that. So I'd love to hear from you a little bit on this, Julio. You've been working with us a little bit on, learning some new things, and we've been focusing a little bit on mental edge conditioning. We've been doing some drills. What has your experience been with that? Has that been helping you level up, or what have you been finding so far with the
Yeah,
programming?
yeah, no, I think so. A lot of things, you kind of go into it. Again, if you're going into this program, you have to be, you have to be all in or all out, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there's no middle ground, and you have to trust that, what you're saying is really going to provide value, and you may not see it in the moment, um, but it builds, right? So something that we did, a couple weeks ago may not have made perfect sense in the moment. It's kind of you do the whole analogy about playing a piano.
Hmm.
You're playing the same key and you don't realize it, but you're in your mind, you're hearing the same tune every day.
Yep.
But then you start seeing it in live trading, and like the flip coin drill. I mean that one for me, like at the time, I'm like, I really don't know what value we're going to get out of this. I mean, you explained it very well.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Chris said to do it, so I'm just going to do it anyways. Um, and it really made me think, like, if it was heads, I was going long. If it was tails, I was going short. And regardless of what the market conditions were, it's like trying to find, those entry points. It really made you think. So, fast forward now, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks later,
Mm-hmm.
and even though I may not be doing that same drill anymore, like physically, might not be flipping a quarter anymore, but I'm looking at entries a little bit different because
Mm-hmm.
now I can think of, I could go long here or I could go short here, pick one of them, and then make the reasons why, and does it fit the
Mm-hmm.
system? And here I am 3 weeks later, and now it's like, oh, that made perfect sense as to why we did that in the moment. So it really has been a great experience. It really has, and it's definitely helped me a ton with my mental, because that seems to be the hardest part of trading, right? Is keeping your emotions in check and knowing, just staying in control of the flow of the market, and not trying to predict the market. Just go with what the market is giving you versus trying to say, I know this is going to go up or I know this is going to go down. We don't know what it's going to do. It's
Yeah.
the market's going to do what the market's going to do.
All right. We just do our best to align ourselves with the auction and the structure.
That's right.
Absolutely. Very cool. And I love the open-mindedness because that's kind of how I was. I had many mentorships myself and I took them all very seriously. And I was at a point where, if you told me that if I stood on my head out in the backyard would help my trading, I'd be like, for how long? That's how willing I was to do whatever was told to me to get better at trading because that's how badly I wanted it. And that's kind of the bar we set in the program for people. And it's great to see people really that willing. So let's talk a little bit about the details about how you've been trading. Most recently, you locked in that $5,000 payout. You've been favoring a little bit more of the fading and return to value style trades. What about what products have you been trading? What size have you been trading? How big of moves you've been going through for? How long have your trades been lasting? Let's talk a little bit about the specifics of your success with that payout.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for that payout specifically, I've been only trading NQs,
Mm-hmm.
strictly. Obviously, this week we're on to a new exercise, and I'm going to venture over to ES. And I'll be honest, today I did not do so well,
Okay.
but I think it was just today was a tough day, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I did fairly well. I did okay. I won't do great. I didn't do great on my live account. But hey, I was green, so that's a plus.
That's a good day.
On my demo account, switching over and just trying to look at ES and watch it move and see how it moves. They're two very different products and they
They
move
are.
differently,
Mm-hmm.
and even price per tick is a little bit different.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of a mind shift that I think I will need to work on a little bit. But for that 5,000 payout, it was strictly NQ. I was doing three MNQ, three mini contract or micro contracts, but I was building into a position, right? So I was doing no more than 9 micros. So I would get into a position up to 3 times.
Okay.
Uh, so
And this is a
I'm
50K account?
yeah, 50K account. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Top set 50K. And so I do three MNQ, and build into a position as the price was either coming into my zone or coming up to my zone. Um, so I usually get in, usually about a point or two before my zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it kept going, I'd get in at my zone, and then I would take my last position probably 2 or 3 points higher than that. But that would be my last position, and that has been my biggest, I think, takeaway so far is not over trading, right? Or over leveraging my account. I would make sure that 9 contracts is my max,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a set per trade that we define early on in the course, that I'm willing to lose. And for me, that's $500, right? So it's a little bit more, but a little bit more on the riskier side. So I take no more than a $500 loss, and I'm only looking at really 1 to 1. I'm looking for a $500 profit, and what I try to like to do is I don't like to be full out at that 500. I like to be, I'll probably take 6 of the 9 contracts off, and leave three, go to break even, and then hopefully catch that to ride a little bit longer. And if I get a big move down, I'll just be full out. But I'm only looking, to get anywhere from 350 to $500, because there's so many opportunities that present themselves with the system that in a day, all I'm looking for total is around $1,500. So for me, that's three trades, right? So if I can get three trades of $500, I should be good. But
Hmm.
as we know, we don't win them all. So thankfully, there's more than three trades a day. So
Yeah, love it.
so three MNQ. My average hold time, I think I was looking at that actually last night. It was a little bit more, it was a little bit longer. Obviously, I'm holding on to my losers a little bit longer than I should. I should probably
Okay.
be cutting them a lot sooner and not
Hmm.
taking full loss, right? There's no reason just because my stop loss is 500, why I don't have to take that. So that's
Right.
something I actually have written down in my journal, to work on for myself is, if something's not going my way, either get most of the risk off the table, and not take the full stop, or just get all the way out altogether. And
Right.
that's something
Love
that
that.
has also helped is not being stuck in trades, right? So in the past, I would get stuck in the trades and keep building into positions. And, I go $1,000, $1,500 into the red. And before you know it, you just blow the account.
Sure.
Um, Setting these rules, have allowed me to, even if I take a full stop, $500 loss, I can take a step back, reevaluate the market. What is it doing? Maybe I see something new that I didn't see before, new structure. Maybe we're diddling in the middle, as they say. Maybe we're at POC. Whatever the case might be. But when you're in a trade, I feel like I'm stuck in that trade and I'm willing it and hoping it and praying it back to break even, versus being able to zoom out because I'm so ingrained into that position that, you know zooming out sometimes helps. So setting that rules in to get out of the position, waiting, take a cool down period, reevaluate the market, and then jump back in. You could be in the same direction. Maybe you were in too soon or something like that. So, but being able to get out of the market, look at the market, and then get back in has really been helpful.
These are all golden nuggets, Julio, things that I wholeheartedly agree with you on. And a lot of things I talk about as well. One thing that you talked about that I really like is not having to stop out of the entire position, right? You can lower your exposure, you can close half of it and give yourself a little more room, right? And take some risk off the table. Nobody likes to close a partial, but we do it with winners. Why not do it with losers, right? It's
So
just as applicable with a losing trade is with a winning trade. You can close partial, so you can give yourself a little more room for the trade to beginning to work. You could always add back into it, or you could close it completely, take a step back, and I like to call it reposition,
yeah,
right? Because you might not be in the best spot. What might have looked like a good trade when you took it at a good level now might be the middle of a high volume node in a chop area, right? So what started as a high probability trade isn't so high probability anymore as you've sat in the trade. So why not maybe close it, get out for break even, possibly reposition at a better level, right? So all those opportunities are constantly evolving. So really great stuff. Love to hear it. So, what's next for you, Julio? Julio the trader. What is the mission for you?
yeah. So I mean, for me, it's repeating itself, right? Making itself repeatable. So, I'm on to trying to get my next, whatever amount payout, whether it's 2,000, 3,000. Not really looking for a dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be able to post, being able to take that second payout and show that it's repeatable. It's not really to gloat or anything like that, but it's about I'm holding myself accountable, right? So, and that's what this group is really good about is holding people accountable for their actions. And for me now that hey, we've posted these, that I've taken that first payout, and I feel the pressure's on a little bit. Obviously, now doing this interview with you, obviously I want to, I don't want to be that guy who's like, oh yeah, he was one and done. So,
Right.
for me, I want to repeat it, right? I want to make it repeatable. I picked up a couple more combines, obviously. So I had the one account. Now I have three accounts. I bought two more combines. They were originally or doing a deal on a couple more. So I bought two more combines. So I'm looking to maybe get multiple payouts
Yeah,
from multiple
nice.
accounts. But I think long term for me, it's obviously I want to try to get into a cash account, um, and kind of do a little bit like what you were talking about a little bit today, doing cash account and have it for the days that you're feeling your best, feeling you're great.
Yep.
I definitely know the difference. It's as you're talking today. I felt like you were talking to me a little bit. The days that you don't feel so good, but you still trade.
Hmm.
The days that you're just not, you have a lot of noise or distraction, whether it be at work or at home or whatever it might be. Um, I find it's all true, right? So the days that you're not feeling the best, or you have a lot of noise or distractions, like you don't trade your greatest. But
Yeah.
having that cash account and kind of being able to do those daily payouts every day, I think that's kind of the ultimate goal, right? To have no rules, to no consistency rules, no, have your own rules, right? Your own drawdown rules, your own daily stop limits, and you know, like you said, losing cold hard cash is a lot different than losing
It
prop money.
definitely is.
So
So it
um,
swings both ways, doesn't it?
yeah, it sure does. So for me, that's what it is. I want to get to a cash account and do some live trading on a cash account and take out daily payouts, and whether that's even $200 a day or $100 a day, just something that I can just feel good about, hitting that withdrawal button and then scale up from there.
So I
So
think it's important to note that your that $5,000 payout was in one account, right? It wasn't a
yep,
copy traded
nope,
account. It wasn't across multiple accounts. So that means you built it up to $10,000 with
yep,
a $2,000 drawdown.
yep.
And for anybody, that's actually quite the impressive feat that we don't really give enough credit to. It's actually very, very difficult to do that. So what's nice is, if you can slow things down and, trade in a cash account and get, not have to make 10,000 to get 5,000, things like that, it definitely creates some freedom, but yeah, I think you're setting the framework for it. And the good news is, nobody I've ever interviewed with has been a one-hit wonder so far in this group. So
Yes.
it seems like we're creating winning traders here, which is what my entire goal has been all along. And you're not new to success. You've had success prior to joining us, but we're glad that you found a home with us, at least for now. And we're looking forward to what comes next for you. We'll be watching, and we're looking forward to your participation in the community and helping out and seeing your growth. So we're so happy to have you with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad to be here, and yeah, I know it's just it's seeing the market different now is really
Mhm.
what's um, and I'm glad to be here and glad to be around these traders, and there are a lot of successful traders in this group, and I think that's also helpful, right? There's
It is.
so you're not always just relying on Chris, like there's
Hmm.
other people that again, with the system being so repeatable and so teachable, and we're
Hmm.
all looking at the same zones, the same tools, the same
Yep.
areas. So it's great because as we all being students of yours start to learn a little bit more, being able to help each other and ultimately hopefully help everyone find the same successes, is huge. So I'm
Yeah.
pumped.
And
I'm glad to be here.
awesome, Julio. Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you do next. And anybody could find Julio in the community. He's a mainstay and a big part of what we're doing here. So, Julio, thank you for your time. Really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. We're looking forward to your success. Congratulations on your achievements so far, and good luck with the future.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Julio.
Yep.
So that's Julio's story. He went from blowing evaluation accounts and overtrading emotionally to hitting consistent payouts in just a few months. So if you're in the same situation, here's what made the difference. Julio couldn't see his own blind spots. He knew the setups and he understood VWAP, but he was sabotaging his execution. And once he had someone catch those mistakes in real time and hold him accountable to a structured plan, that's when everything started to change for him. And that's what the Drysdale Inner Circle provides. Right now, it's closed, but if you want priority access when we open back up, if you want the same type of structure, discipline, and payout consistency that Julio built, then click the first link in the description below and please join our waitlist. We'll do a discovery call and see if it's a fit for you. And let's get you to that next payout.